police officers who were injured in last night's disturbances. It underscores that that's a tough job, and we have to keep that in mind. And my hope is that they can heal and get back to work as soon as possible.
All right, the president also, of course, went on to say that if you rob or break into a building, it's a crime, and if you burn a building, it's arson. So he was saying the right things, not my son would look like Trayvon kind of thing. Joining us now is Stephen Moore, Chief Economist at the Heritage Foundation. Great to see you as always,
Steve.
sir.
Yeah.
All right, Baltimore, what's your take on what's going on there? And, you know, it's hard for the people of Baltimore to legitimately blame, I don't know. I mean, it's Democrats and for the most part, an African-American mayor it's been an African-American mayor, I think, for decades, and an African-American police chief right now. So the racial aspect of who to blame seems to go out the window.
Well, look, I think that there's a black rage in a lot of inner cities, not just Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. And part of that rage is due to, you know, I think some excessive force by police, you know, shooting people in the back and things like that.
Well,
I mean,
that was one officer.
Look,
yeah.
I mean, I just think that there's some legitimate concerns here about the use of force by police. But there's a bigger point I think that a lot of people are missing, which is these inner cities are kind of like war zones. I mean, there's no jobs. They have lousy schools. There's no safety. People are you know, half of the people on welfare. I think it's time Republicans really, and who's, as you just said, who's been running these cities for the last 50
Democrats.
years? I mean, Detroit is a perfect example, right? If you just let liberalism run amok, you turn out like Detroit, where people leave and it becomes just a wasteland. And the point I was making to you is I think Republicans have to maybe go to these places and say to these black leaders and the black ministers and go to the churches and go to the schools and go to the neighborhoods and say, we're going to fix this thing. We're going to bring you jobs through our economic programs. We're going to give you school choice so you don't have to go to these lousy schools. We're going to make the streets safe. Because look, the 90% of the blacks who live in these neighborhoods, they don't want this black, you know, they don't want this. They're the victims of this.
Right.
So, you know, where's the Jack Kemp of the Republican Party going and showing up and saying, look, we can fix these problems for you?
So is this, I mean, maybe not the riot specifically, but is this an opportunity for Republicans now to, in the aftermath, go into Baltimore?
Well, Baltimore, go into, you know, Chicago,
right.
Go into these inner cities where, you know, the living conditions are deplorable in 21st century
Why don't
America.
they do it?
And you know, well, my good friend who ran for governor of Illinois, you know, he went to these black churches and neighborhoods and said, look, what have the Democrats really done for you?
Right.
Where are the jobs? Right. Where's the safety and so on? And he got 20% of the vote. So I think Republicans should be reaching out to these constituents and say it's liberalism that have created these unlivable conditions for you.
And that's very true. All right, you wrote a piece the other day, I saw it in the Washington Times. It was Earth Day last week, and you're writing about how the state of the planet is better than ever, despite notwithstanding what the left would have you believe.
It's amazing. I mean, the facts are the facts. I defy you, Steve Malzberg, or anyone watching this show, to find any statistic that shows that things are getting worse in terms of the state of the planet. If you look at things like infant mortality rates, if you look at life expectancy, now short-term things go, you know, obviously things go wrong, but I'm talking about, you know, deaths from natural disasters have fallen in every single area, Steve. Life on Earth has been getting better, and yet you listen to Earth Day and you'd think that our planet was going to blow up or you know, or melt down, and that's craziness. I mean, one of my favorite examples is hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, famines. Down.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the
you think it's worse than ever.
Exactly.
Because, well, they have to peg climate change as responsible for something, so they talk about intensity of storms and this and that.
But even that's not true.
No, it's not.
I mean, you've covered this.
Yeah.
The number of hurricanes is actually not any higher today than it was 50 years ago.
No, and on the East Coast, when's the last time we had a real significant season? Right. Thank God.
Right.
I mean,
so the point is, you know, if you look at objectively the state of the planet, it's very healthy. And why is there this pessimism that just overrides everything?
Well, on the part of the United States, or to perpetuate it here.
I'm talking about the Greens.
Yeah.
Why
the
do
Greens
they feel like
they just want it. Is it not a business for the most part?
It is. It's
carbon tax and
yes.
make corporations change their way of doing things, get coal out of the picture.
You know, I'll give you an example.
We got about a minute, so go ahead.
If you have to ask the average school child, because I've done this, you know, do you think the air and the water, the air that we breathe and the water we drink is cleaner today than it was 50 or 100 years ago? So, oh, no, hell no, it was much cleaner 50 or 100 years ago. Back then you could just take your cup in that river and drink the water. 100 years ago, Steve, a quarter of the deaths were attributable to contaminants in the drinking water.
Absolutely.
So people don't have any sense of how much better even the environment is.
And then you have Barack Obama saying that his daughter got an asthma attack because of climate change.
Can you imagine what cities were like before there were automobiles?
Oh my gosh.
You think about what they smelled like
I
when
know.
people were riding around on horses. I mean, you want to talk about pollution?
Yeah.
The average horse dumps 4 pounds of manure a day.
The great Stephen Moore, ladies and gentlemen. Always great to
Thanks,
see you,
Steve.
sir. All right, we're coming back, folks, with Gimme 5. It's up next right here. New time. Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television.